Hello, how is everybody? I'm gonna take these off because they do cast a haze. Oh my god, I feel like it was just yesterday we were meeting for the first time
Yes.
on the Upper West Side,
Yes,
and then talking.
on a rainy day.
Yes, just talking about one day doing an event,
I know.
and then trying 8 times to get one together.
We did.
And here we are.
We're here. It took a year. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be on Long Island, where this book takes place.
Yes. Okay, before we get super into it, I need to ask, we won't talk about the last 9% anyway, but how many of you have read the book? Oh my god, that's so many more than I anticipated.
Yeah, it's good.
That's perfect. So that means some of you guys are in for such a treat. Others, you guys will know some of the things we're talking about. But my first question for you just is, can you tell us a little bit about the book, about Tropesick, and just what readers will find in it?
Yeah, so Tropsick is a love story about an all-grown-up girl next door and her dead brother's best friend who reunite. I know that sounds glib, like it is. And he is a now sober literary fiction author, and they reunite after 8 years of estrangement to ghostwrite a romance novel together for a reclusive author who lives in the Southamptons. And when they get to her house, a lot of weird things start to happen, the weirdest of which is that all of the tropes that they are writing into their manuscript begin to come true. And so while they're spending the summer together sort of writing this story, they're trying to figure out what's going on in the house, and they're also finding their way back to each other and sort of playing with all these tropes we know and love while moving through the grief of the loss of Katie's brother, who has died of a drug overdose.
Yeah, it's heavy, but also so much filled with humor and heart. And I really loved it when I read it. I read it in 2 days, and that's not normal for me. And it's so good. Can you tell me what first inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, so I don't totally know. I'm very woo-woo when it comes to writing, and I'm like, ideas arrive intact. And I sort of believe this, but there was an early idea that I had where I was they're in LA, and maybe they reunite in this community poetry class, and he has writer's block. He's a successful novelist, and his agent is just go take this continuing ed poetry class so you can make something. And then she's there and writing Taylor Swifty poetry, and they're paired up. Anyway, it didn't work. The second I started actually thinking about it, I was they have to write a romance novel. And then what's kind of funny is that's literally you between the lines, and now Katie Naiman is my best friend, and I'm I almost wrote this book, and it exists, and it's fantastic. But as soon as I got the story together, as soon as that concept came in my mind, I was it has to be a romance novel. And then pretty quickly, it has to be New York. And part of that is because they're working writers in their 20s, of course it has to be New York. That's the trope. And also because my debut, The Best Worst Thing, takes place in Los Angeles, and I was just very tired of describing the sun, that particular sun. So I was let's move to this other sun. And now here we are. And then also, once you guys meet Meredith, that woman has never been to California. She's not interested. So she's a New York person.
She gives me Ina Garten vibes.
I don't think she's ever been. I'm not sure she's been to Manhattan.
No.
Yeah, that's not her. I love it. You know what? In this AI slop world, this is so real.
I'm so real.
Yeah.
This is real. This is me.
Yeah.
So what, in writing the story then, what came first? Was it the characters, or was it the setting? What really spoke to you first?
There was no prologue. That's the work of my genius editor, Shannon, who's here. She was you knew this. But it started with Katie in the cafe, and Tyler walked in the door, and I am back to my woo-woo craft beliefs. I always am the first 50 pages of a book should be improv. I usually have a concept, but I'm let's just see what my let's see what I have, right? Intuitively what I've got, and I feel characters show up an improv show where the screen is the stage, and people just show up, and they kind of show themselves to me, and their secret, that sort of stuff. And it's wrong, but it's a lot of the drama and the natural pacing. And then we talked about this at dinner, but especially in a story like this, I was okay, I'm going to let my intuition move me through some of these beats, because it is if it's going to be metafiction, which it is, then it's going to inherently be a byproduct of all of the media that I have consumed, and I just shouldn't disturb that, right? And so when people Meredith one day was talking, and then she's the forbidden forest, and I'm all right, I guess there's a forbidden forest, right? Because it's pulling off of all of these different tropes and microtropes and storytelling conventions. And so yeah, Katie appeared to me And so when Katie was like clearly, I'm like, all right, she's a girly, like this is
Yeah.
happening. And so obviously when Tyler walks in, he's dressed in black because like there's no other choice. That's the trope, right? But what was amazing is that like I didn't have to be heavy-handed. Like so much of this work did itself because it is like, I'm not gonna call like my own book derivative, that is crazy, but it is like in conversation with like every other thing I have ever read or watched or listened to.
No, I actually think that's a really beautiful thing about your book is that like it feels like it is in such direct conversation with contemporary authors and also authors of the past, but like it does such a good job of tying it all together in what the book is, which is truly to me a love story to the romance novel without feeling like too heavy-handed in what a romance novel is. And I think you've struck that balance really well. Of
I was
course.
also just like looking over here and I was like, there's a cat in the book. And he's kind of a big deal. And so if you haven't read the book and you're like, what is this? It's him. It's the whole thing.
You can meet Pino.
You can meet Pino the cat.
He'll have his own meet and greet after. So something that I've noticed about the way you write and something that you love is a dual timeline. Can you speak to what draws you to that trope? And if I may say, something you've DM'd me about my own work is a dual timeline sob fest is one of your favorite things.
I do love a dual timeline sob fest. I think part of it is, well, first of all, my two published books are dual timelines. So like I did it once. So and I think when I was writing my debut, the dual timeline it forced me to do the backstory work. So like that work has to be done anyway, and like I didn't know what I was doing. I was literally like in a cave, and with a torch, and I was like I can see like 6 inches in front of me when I was writing that book, and so the dual timeline really helped me. And then and then that became the structure of the book. And then I think in a second chance romance, if the stakes are truly high, like if the breakup was a legitimate disaster, that context and like those feelings and those emotions are going to be stronger if we experience the scenes. And in a book like this, like Katie and Tyler's like high school relationship has like implications that they are not able to recover from these events, and these are like the seminal scenes that make them, and they're also really tropey. So they have a lot of like You Belong to Me, Taylor Swift music video moments where they're like talking from their windowsill, and it just sort of establishes, like especially Tyler and Mikey, like not spoil, like they are drug addicts, and like I think it's important for us to see the trajectory of their addiction and also to see who they were before things got bad and like what life was like with Katie's family and like all of that stuff. I think the book falls apart without it. So I'm not like pro gratuitous dual timeline, but I think that if a lot of work, if it can do a lot of heavy lifting and really make you attached to the characters, and it's especially if characters make mistakes. Like if they've done something bad and we're able to go back and see who they were and like when they make these wrong choices, then if they're gonna be like ruminating and depressed and all of these things or like have regrets, like being with them and seeing why they made those mistakes and then watching them grow, I think is like a lot more powerful when we were there when like the initial wound was installed.
Yeah, I think it really, and it strikes a good balance in this book, which is something I think you've done well, which is a balance of humor and then also really heavy topics like the addiction and grief. And how did you go about writing the book to add humor without making that feel like out of place, you know?
I think this is something that like I think first of all it's like, well, the book is a product of me, and like I am like I'd like to think I'm a funny person, but I'm not always like in a good mood, right? Like bad stuff happens, and I think having a sense of humor about life or being able to sort of laugh at yourself or say something that's like sort of edgy funny but like very depressing, like, you know, like sort of like dead mom club jokes, of which I'm a member, like that sort of stuff, right? Like that's uncomfortable, but it's also funny, like, you know? And I think like it's like stuff like that where it's like, oh, I think the best worst thing is like kind of a sad book about two very funny people. And I'm like, you know, and it's like, it's a romance, it's also a happy book, but it's like, there's like crazy stuff going on, and like they still have a sense of humor, and the narration in that book is like sort of like a very long-winded version of me who's at brunch, who's like telling you a story, right? And like there are still jokes, like we can still be objectively humorous, even about situations that are sad. And I think with this one, there's an element of that, but there's also this additional wrinkle of sort of like absurdist fiction of like, and that is like where the cat comes in, or right, or like these characters say things that are just sort of preposterous and campy, and it's sort of in conversation with the book. So I think it's like just like the whimsy or like the jokes or like the comic relief, and being able to have enough of that like even when things are sad or dark, that like there's still room for like the lightness to come in. And I think part of that is just like, that's why I write romance.
Yeah.
Like I want to go to dark places with like this promise of like a love story, you know, and I think it's very true to how like the people in my world, like in my orbit, move through their lives that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally feel that from your work and like how it functions as like something that is simultaneously very dark, but like we have that happily ever after, so we know that it will be okay. So it's okay to deal with these harsh things, because despite what we read on the page, by the time we get to the end, it will be okay.
Yeah, or it's this idea that like this is gonna be hard, this might be hard work, but like at the end they're gonna have each other, and I think that promise to the reader affords like a lot of space. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Pinot, since you've mentioned him, Pinot, what was the inspiration for Meredith and Pinot? Because I feel like together they are a dynamic duo.
Yeah. So they arrived intact, like their other characters. So like Katie and Tyler, like early on in the book, they like drive up to the mansion in Southampton, and then like somehow my fingertips were like, and here she is, and you know, and she's wearing her like linen stuff, and there's the blue hydrangeas, and in one hand she's got the glass of wine, and then my brain was like, and the other one is gonna be a big white cat, you know, and it's like, because those are tropes, and so like they just sort of appeared, and then I let them surprise me, like the improv game, and then I just let them keep going. And it's not to say that like they're perfect or they're not edited, like they often need work, but like you're a theater kid, you get it, right? Like it's like they're a persona, and you understand enough about them. Like I usually feel like, oh, like with my characters, where by the time I'm done with the book, like I could put them on the moon, and I know what they would do. You know, like and I said like with the Bestselling thing, I'm like, oh, Logan would be like exploring,
right?
You know, and Nicole would be making a list, right? Like you guys know what your characters would do on a moon, and so I think it's one of the things where like you just let them. I like let them be in charge, and I think that makes my job. I'm more of a reporter than anything else. Yeah.
What would Katie and Tyler do on the moon? Sorry, you.
I'm like, well, Katie would be staring at Tyler.
Well, yeah.
And Tyler would be hopefully staring at Katie, but probably like writing about it. Probably like on some sort of obnoxious tangent. Like, no. But yeah, I think, and then, you know, and then it's like, it's that sort of thing. Maybe not good for the moon. But the other day I was at the Strand, and I imagined them at the Strand, and I was like, well, she would be doing a photo shoot, and he would be taking the pictures, and would be like very grumpy, but also doing it and making sure she liked them. So, yeah.
That, I feel like, is their holy place.
That is, yes.
I actually have a fun question for you about them that I think is really funny and fun for me, that I want to know, so I'm going to ask you, which is, if Katie and Tyler went vinyl record shopping, what is the album they're picking up?
Okay, so this is where my age and it shows, but I'm always, like, Tyler is such a function of like all of the boys who like just made me feel horrible about myself during like the emo phase, like because I was like in the early 2000s, like in the Dashboard Confessional. If anyone, if you know, like that era, like the Death Cab for Cutie, Taking Back Sunday, that sort of stuff. But I see, like, I think there's so much. The Blinded album by Third Eye Blind reminds me of Tyler a lot of music by Bleachers, but I would say that Blinded album to me is like a very Tyler. Stephen Jenkins from Third Eye Blind writes a lot about addiction. He has been not very kind to the women he loves. He's very, very lyrical, a little grungy, and there's a lot. The song Blinded reminds me a lot of this book. It's definitely on my playlist. And then Katie to me like is, if you 3D printed Katie, she would be 1989 Taylor's version.
Yeah.
Like, there's just, I mean, even like some of those songs, I'm like, they're about Long Island. Like, even if they're not, they are to me. And I think I was kind of blown away by like how close it is, to the point where I'm like, did this record influence this book? And I think like, yeah, probably. Like, especially like, and not to go on like a Taylor Swift tangent, but like the story, and I will, is like the storytelling, and like that is such a tight narrative, like in so much of her music, where I'm like, oh, like these personas and these characters, and like she's playing off of these tropes too. Like these are tropes that are sort of just like in the ether, right? About like what sort of I think like Shannon and I talked about like when we first talked about that album. That album is so like self-aware of its own like bonkers innocence, right? Like it kind of and that reminds me so much of Katie. Where like someone is kind of like going through all this stuff and feels really, really harmed, but like it's still a banger, you know?
Yeah. Well, and actually something that's interesting about that album in relation to your book to me is something that Taylor kind of deals with on 1989 is addiction, but like in the way of like this is addiction to a man, and by the end it's
Which Katie has.
which Katie has.
She's afflicted.
She is but like by the end we get to clean it. It's talking about being sober from the thing, and I
Yeah.
think both of them have had their own journey with that.
Yeah.
And can you maybe speak a little bit to like what maybe the research about addiction in the book, or like what led you to like
Yeah,
that
there's
being
just
the
there is like addiction in my world. Like it has affected family members, it has affected friends, it has affected family members of friends. I think that it is like that is a reality of being alive. Most people know people who were affected by addiction, and I think part of the reason I wanted to write this story, or that I was so glad that it came to me in dual POV, was because I didn't just want to do, Tyler is 8 or 9 years sober, the start of this book, and I think that that's a really interesting journey, and we get a lot of, in his first person narration, we're able to sort of explore, like the sobriety doesn't eradicate guilt, like that sort of stuff, and I think that stuff is interesting, but I'm like very, very fond of Katie's version of the story, where like Katie was just a good kid who was like in the shadows because her brother was an addict, and so because Katie was fine, she doesn't get enough, and that pain is not lifted when her brother dies. In fact, it becomes worse. She's still in his shadow, and I think that this idea, like in a dual POV, sort of like it's not a rom-com, but at first act sort of rom-com, don't be fooled, is this idea that like they're both reeling from the same event in really different ways. And I think that like representing addiction is not just a thing that happens to an addict, but that happens to like the entire village who surrounds the addict is really interesting. So two different points of view on the same event were like very fun for me as an author. And I think like I don't want to write about this sort of stuff and then not not do representation well, or just not write it. And so I was glad to not only like be able to write about it, but to be able to write about it from multiple angles.
Yeah, I remember when I was reading it, like for the first time, and I remember texting you being like, oh my God, I've never seen addiction written so gracefully, where like it really felt real, but not something that was just like thrown in as like a thing that someone has a problem with. And I really commend you for that, because I think it's not easy, and I think you really struck that balance really well.
Thank you. Yeah, I think part of it too is like for me, like, and this is probably just like because I'm crazy, but I'm like, oh, like sometimes you do have to be graphic, right? When you're doing representation, which is like if we're constantly trying to sand down the hard things so that they are like more palatable, then actually like then the representation is bad, like because it's sanded down, right? And so it's like by sometimes like like and it's not to say that we don't want to be gratuitous, it's like because that's not great either. But it's like when the hard stuff happens, it needs to hit. If we're trying to actually like touch on these human experiences, then we should do that, and it's not like I don't think that like just because it's a love story that it shouldn't be done.
Oh no, of course. And like especially being a romance novel, we do get the happily ever after at the end. So like
you'll be fine-ish, I think, maybe. Like in this one very predictable way, you'll be fine. Yeah.
Well, it's like just knowing by the end that they will find each other through it, and knowing that they'll work through it, and I think that's really beautiful. In speaking of the romance genre, this is a love letter to that genre. How did you discover it? When did you find the romance?
I don't have the origin story. My mom wasn't like a cool mom with like bodice rippers. My mom was like, although she did buy me, but she used to buy me the Betty and Veronica, like the Archie comics, and and this is probably like how, and I was like, whenever, like it was not the love stuff, I was like, skip. Like, oh my God, I don't want to like Jughead's antics, like please. But I also, this is not okay in romance, but I feel like at some point Archie got involved with Cheryl Blossom, and I was like, this is hot and interesting, like, and he was like with the bad girl, so I feel like part of it is not like, how did I become a romance girly, because like, I don't know, I just know that when there's like no romantic tension in something, I'm just like I'm so preoccupied with that, like, that part of like the human experience. I recently watched a show with my husband where like the sexual tension between these two characters was insane, and it was like continuing to peak, and then they died like in a shootout, and they had gotten to like the hand holding, and they never came, and I was like, I have to go. And it was like episode 9 of 10. And I was like, they're gonna come back, right? He's like, this is a mystery. Like they're not going to. So I think for me, it's like I don't know like what the definitive like child. I mean, there was definitely like some Sophie Kinsella, like that stuff made its way into my world. But like I wasn't raised by a romance reader. Like my parents were not romantic. I just like really found that that's all I want to consume. Like that I'm like very, very interested in people when they're falling in love. And so once I had the agency to like find my own books, and like I studied English in college, and I had like several seminars about like, well, I had all these seminars at NYU, and all the books were written by men. It was like Tom Hardy, like it was like that sort of stuff, these romances. But I think like that is what I want to consume. And even like when I'm reading outside of the genre, which I do a lot, like I sort of I don't require, but like I really prefer any requirements for reading when there is like some sort of like romantic subplot.
No, that makes so much sense. But also, I did have a question about the book.
I have a question about Sherlock also.
I was gonna say, when are we getting fanfic?
I feel like I should do fanfic about that TV show. I'm probably
There's
not the
so
only
many.
one who feels this
You have
way.
so many options.
I have so many options.
Do you know how?
Like a zombie.
Do you know how it ends?
The show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't come back.
Wait. Did you watch Riverdale?
Yeah, I never finished Riverdale.
Oh, but do you know how Riverdale ends?
No. Are we all prepared
Can
to
I
find
spoil
out?
it?
Does anyone? You should leave now.
Yeah. Leave. So they end up in a polyamorous relationship.
Okay, how many people are gonna go finish Riverdale?
It's Betty. It's Betty. Oh God, wait. What are their names? Now that's
Veronica.
Betty, Veronica, Archie, and Jughead.
Wait, what about Reggie? He's not in it?
I don't remember.
He's the hot one too.
He's like barely.
Yeah.
He's gone?
Not big. He's in
Yeah.
for good.
I watched this so long ago.
When I remember I started watching it, I was like, I remember when we started watching it, I was like, this is not like the comics. This is not what I remember.
No, and so now I think you need to watch it to figure out.
I'm curious. I'm ready. Yeah.
But now speaking of the adaptation,
Okay.
if Tropesick.
Oh, by the way, I'm gonna interrupt you.
Oh, how dare you?
Whoever played Cheryl is a kind of a Katie.
I love her.
Yes.
No, Madeline something.
Petch.
Yes.
She's gorgeous.
I have like 3 things I cast her in my head.
Yes.
And Tropesick is one of them.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Saint.
I know. Well, so anyway, if it were to be adapted, Tropesick,
Okay.
would you rather it be a show or a movie?
Okay. The answer is always whatever anyone wants to tell. My film and TV agent, Nicole Weinroth, at WB. But the answer, the private answer, is that like you're always gonna everyone wants normal people.
Yeah.
Everyone wants 10 episodes to tell their whole beautiful story at the same pace as the book. Like that of course that's the dream, because I think everything in the book is necessary, so like the idea of it being compressed I'm open. We are open for compression, but obviously like if I had wanted it to be a novella, I would have not written a novella. But like, or a short story. Yeah, but I think I think especially when there's like a dual timeline or that sort of thing, like we would just, you would lose a lot. So I think that's the vision, but a part of it is like, well, that's why things are adapted, because then they're compressed and revisualized for a different medium, which is a whole different game. But as the story currently stands, I vote no truncation. Yes. Story currently stands, I vote no truncation. Yes.
I agree. Also, I'm going to remind everyone at this point, there will be a Q&A, so please be thinking of your questions when we move to that portion. Then if it was made into some sort of visual media, who would you cast?
Okay, Sadie Sink. I don't think Tyler exists, but I'm willing, if we can get a time machine, I would take Jacob Elordi of 5 years ago.
Yeah.
The thing is like then they become so everywhere that I'm like, no, I cannot, you know what I mean? It's like, you're so many things. But also, if you represent Jacob Elordi, we will also kick him out. I'm prepared.
At any time.
It's okay. And then Meredith I always saw as the mom from Gossip Girl, Kelly Rutherford.
Oh, is that Serena's mom?
Serena's mom, yes.
Oh.
Like that. Speaking of people who seem like they've never been to California.
She's barely stepped foot on the streets of New York.
Also, if you go to her Instagram, she's Meredith.
Oh, I need to look at her
It's
Instagram.
all like she's always in like a linen set, and she's just always like standing in the sand. Like she's a fascinating person. Yes. So those are my key three. And then last night you weren't there. I said something last night. About,
I was not there.
Connor's story, Filipino, which I think Yeah, that played well in New York. What? But I think because of his body work.
Because of his body of work.
Like, I just can see him, like, just be like, okay, I'll get on the floor.
I can't wait for the theatrical production of it where we do have Pino played by a person, and it can be Connor.
The cats, like the cats.
Well,
It's funny to me, guys.
Well, because I was thinking about it and like who I would cast, and I did while reading it before I was finished. I literally sent her a picture of Sadie Sink, and I said, "This is who I'm
Yeah,
picturing."
it's like she's on the mood board.
No, she literally sent me the mood board, and it was Sadie Sink.
Sadie Sink.
I don't think about men's, to be honest. So like, I can't think of like a male actor who, besides my partner, who I can think of like that would play that role.
Because you need like an unknown.
Yeah, like, and then I know this is like cliche, but I did, and I always picture Meryl Streep as Meredith because she has that like.
Yeah, and there is like a Miranda Priestley.
Yes.
Like Miranda Priestley meets Jay Gatsby, meets Diane Keaton, meets Martha Stewart. Like there's like Meredith's a trope, right? So like she's gonna be like, she's a woman who's never done anything with her hands except for write her books and garden, right? Like she's gonna hit that criteria.
Another person is like Catherine O'Hara would have been like, but like
I know,
that's
and
the
then
vibe.
like, yeah, oh my god, now I'm upset.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but like that's the kind of person I imagine Meredith.
Yes. Because she played in Schitt's Creek.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's like Meredith on like crack.
It's true.
No, because like.
I'm like, hopefully everyone thinks this is funny later when they've read the book.
It seems like everyone does.
They're like, this is getting really weird. They're like, okay.
So something I do like to always ask authors is, what is a romance novel they always recommend?
Okay, well, the novel that is imprinted on my soul is Birds of California by Katie Coutinho.
Mm-hmm.
And I will shove it into your hands. I just think the writing is so good. And it goes to like, I think she's such an interesting writer, and I just want everyone to read her stuff. And I bother her on Instagram all the time. I've been doing it for years. Yeah.
You're a pro.
I'm a pro at it. She's like, this girl. And I love that book. I loved August Lane. That's a great book. Also, I love Mess.
Regina
and
Black.
Regina delivers. This man stole her music, and she loves him.
Did you read The Art of a Scandal? No. Big mess.
Oh,
Huge.
Bigger?
Political mess.
Ooh.
And cheating, lots of scandal. Very good. Age gap.
Scandal. Ooh.
It does feel very Olivia Pope coded.
I have so much to do.
And then
I'm doing that while I'm doing Riverdale, and then whatever book I turn in next, they're like, this is not appropriate.
Not a Riverdale meets like scandal book. That would be crazy. But then also, who would be your desert island romance author? Like if you could only read one author and you were stranded, who's it gonna be?
This is like deeply upsetting.
I'm so
like,
sorry.
What if it's already on my Kindle? Let's do it. No, you know what? I'm not gonna do it. You're gonna.
Emily Henry.
That doesn't count.
No.
No.
If
no, you can't.
Sherry Thomas.
Okay, there you go.
Sherry
I'll accept
Thomas.
it. Yes. Okay. Sherry Thomas.
She is, funnily enough, one of Emily Henry's favorite authors. So I think you have taste, is what I'm hearing. And then I do want to ask you about, you may have noticed, there's a lot of branding with this book that includes a t-shirt.
They probably don't know, and they're like,
no, they have,
wearing?
Bring Back Men Who Yearn. And I feel like you do yearning men so well. What is, like, how does that, like, sad, pathetic, yearning men are perfect in romance novels, and how do you do it? Like, how does that come for you, like, creating that character?
Okay, well, I obviously don't know the answer, because all the weird woo-woo stuff we talked about before, but they just appear and they're pathetic. But I think part of it is that, like, you want them to feel like a man that you could meet in real life. Even if they're perfect, even if they're, like, insane, like Tyler, you want this idea that, like, maybe he's just around the corner. And that's, like, that's what makes, like, the genre so great. You're like, he's there. He's like the book boy, right? And I think that means, doesn't always, like, Logan is like, well, he has one big flaw, but I don't like to talk about it because then people get upset. So you can, if you want to know, you can come talk to me about it privately, but it's that Nicole's married. But I think that it's this idea that, like, that makes it, like, so much hotter when they're so pathetic, because they're not, like, cartoons who are pathetic. you know, like when we going back to like my debut, not to like talk about, I feel like we've done it, it's been balanced and mostly Tropsick, but it's like, I remember like my friend was reading it before it was even like close to being sold or published. And she was like, these men don't exist, right, in real life. Like, there's like, and I was like, well, they can't, because our old bosses have never been they're not secretly in love with it. So like, this must be fiction, because it's never happened to me. That like a man has been like waiting for me despite my marriage. And I think part of it is like, and like he's just not, and he's 39 and he's perfect and he doesn't have anyone else because he's waiting for me. But I think that like that is the fantasy. But if you do enough work in every other area except for, and in their like nuanced devotion or patience or yearning for this woman, then it's like, oh, I think I can see him.
Yeah.
Right? And like I can see Logan at work doing like his nebulous advertising job where he sells things, right? Or like I can see Tyler cares about his book, right? So when we see them do other things outside of yearn, it makes the yearning hit that much harder because we think we can have them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because like they do all these other things that look like the other men that we've known. Yeah.
I love that. Okay. I'm gonna ask one more question, then we're gonna move on to the Q&A portion. So be ready. So with a book called Tropesick, I do need to ask, what is a trope that you have not written yet that you really want to write? And I'm so
sorry. I
sorry.
thought you were going to ask the question, then I forbade you.
Oh, no, I was forbidden to ask a question, so I was not going to ask you that question.
I was like, please don't ask me my favorite trope to write is because I've been asked 5 nights in a row and I botched it every night, and it's actually getting worse.
And I listened. And see, I listened. I don't know why you would think I would hurt you like that. How dare you?
Everyone knows. Okay, what is my favorite? What is a trope that I've never written?
That you would like to?
I feel like I don't, this is a secret. No, I'm not gonna do
Phone's
that.
away.
No. I'm not, I am interested in like an age gap thing.
Okay,
But I'm interested in like everything above board, no one stress out. But I think that I was talking to my husband about this the other day because he was like, oh, I don't even see how you could be interested in that because like it's just not okay because of the power dynamic. And I was like, okay, but when you say that, you take agency from the younger person who should have a say in what they want and who they love. They're not a child, right? And I think that would be really interesting to see like stretched out and argued about on a page where it's like, yeah, like, okay, this is taboo. Let's fight it out because I love you, right? And it's like, stop telling me what I want. Like even at like 22 or 23 years old, you should be able to make a decision about your partner. But like, this also could be true. Like you could be, like maybe you are like being dominated. Like maybe you know what I mean. Maybe you are being influenced. Maybe your frontal cortex is not fully formed. And so, but I think that no matter what the answer is, I think that like there's mess there, and where there's mess, I want to be.
Yes. That is my favorite romance novel. Is where there's mess, I want to be there.
Mess. Yeah. So it's like, what if more mess?